so first pick being available for Tempo, I highly doubt that's going to make it through.
Well, let's go ahead and move straight in the draft here as we'll be moving into Sky Temple for the Battleground. As Zealots and Tempo Storm trying to get ready for game number 3, but Tempo has a chance to grab a 2-0 and get a second victory for North America.
Zealots has only 2 maps that they have a winning record on. Sky Temple, they are 5-1 on. I don't think it's a surprise they picked this, but with BOE being banned out in Sky Temple, I think this is Zealots' best chance. Really, I mean, if they lose this, it's best of 3. It's kind of, you gotta win.
It's just a drafting question at this point, because I want to see them adapt here a bit. And we talked about ADRD being able to prepare for this series quite a bit. Again, I think they walked away with a draft that they felt is strong and is superior in the first map. It proved to be not the case. So now the question for me is, are they changing their game plan? Or are they just saying, okay, that was just us misplaying, we could have played that better, we could have played that cleaner, we should have won it, and if they just stick to their original plan for the remaining maps now?
Yeah, I think this is them bringing it back to basics by going on to something that they're very comfortable on, that they probably have a draft ready and in mind for. There's that Maiev ban that we were sort of waiting to see. I mean, I was saying that I was expecting it earlier. Now that they've seen some on the Maiev, they're not letting that through again.
They're not letting it through. You know, again, draft. I'm not saying the Malthael was the one that won it last game, but the fact that Zealots banned out Leoric, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but the fact that they didn't, I guess, understand the way Tempo likes to play surprised me a little bit in that last one. They're coming out right out of the gates with a Tracer Abathur, though, to start this. It denies the Tracer from the Malfurion, but this is a very bold start to a draft if I'm looking at Zealots.
I mean, it pays pretty well to the Battleground. With Tracer Abathur, you have a strong fight in the early game, and if you have a strong fight in the early game, you get temples, you take them out.
And again, Tracer has a 4 track record so far, and that includes a game early on where we had Team 12, for example, do the exact same opening. Malfurion was taken away from them by Method, and they responded immediately with the Tracer Abathur pick, and that worked out really well for them.
Do you guys think we're going to see another Malthael? That's something that I also wanted to touch on. I was saying I wasn't really convinced if Malthael was still a pick. Glaurung, he was even saying in the interviews with us, he was saying how much he enjoyed Malthael, how much he feels like teams are undervaluing him, and he showed why. Going the Last Rites build, the newer build, I guess, that's been starting to be prioritized, it did a lot of work.
I mean, the thing is always, you have a lot of teams that just simply disagree on what hero should receive a priority and which one shouldn't. If you look at the differences between North America and Europe, you see that reflected throughout a magnitude of heroes. Malthael is one that makes it very transparent, and always prioritizing him very highly. Europe at some point just said, we don't respect him. You have the same thing happening around Jaina, which Europe just doesn't play, but North America played her a lot throughout 2018. And this is what these events are for. I mean, that's the main reason why we have these global events where you all of a sudden see metas clash, and people are able to show, okay, this is why we believe this hero or this style is strong. Let's see if you can really deal with it, or if you're just wrong in your assumption that it doesn't work.
We get a Kerrigan ban, so Zealots, knowing about the Psalm special.
Unless something just completely weird happens, which Kerrigan would be that weird factor, Dahaka will likely be the Glaurung hero in this instance. It's just the way they tend to draft, so at least you can kind of solve that part of the equation. Now, Zealots, they have 2 picks. They don't have a warrior tank, obviously. Abathur does really well on this Battleground with Mule, and your lifelines are your structures around the temples. You can heal up if you decide to go that route. But Zealots, you know, the Tracer pick is great for team fighting, great for skirmishing, but they're gonna need a lot more.
Tassadar is up, and we've seen them pass from ADRD.
Yeah, they played a lot Tassadar on this map in particular. That was mostly around Hanzo, though. So that was when they were really trying to get that Hanzo combo off, when they had Uther in the mix as well. Now, they could do something similar if they really wanted to, but we have Abathur already taken, so usually that's the hero that ADRD jumps to. And now they're trying to just help out with the extra shields through Tyrael. So you have ETC, you have Tyrael, you have a strong front line here. Abathur very highly focused at this point on Tracer. We've seen a lot of the games before where you had, let's take for example Team 12, where they drafted Raven and Arthas on top of Tracer, so Abathur had really a lot of targets for the symbiote. With this one, you are more one-dimensional in who you're trying to support it with.
The thing with Tempo, they've got a couple of good players that can handle Medivh. And if they're willing to try and deal with the potential dive, double front line of ETC Tyrael has good control, but it doesn't necessarily have the damage. And there's a strong possibility we might see Psalm play Medivh in this one.
It wouldn't be too far out of the question, really. And it really stops what Tracer is trying to do by ducking in the Pulse Bomb. You time it right. It's mitigating so much of that damage and very, very effective in terms of shutting her down. One thing as well that I want to see, though, coming out on Zealots I'm a bit worried about is, yeah, they do have the front line. They do have the Tracer.
Varian.
Excuse me?
The old counter to Tracer.
We had that in Europe popping up towards the end in the last few play days. Varian was played as a counter to Tracer. And if you play with Greymane, you have, of course, a lot of one-shot potential there. The double support, I actually was exactly questioning or about to question that, because if you only have Malfurion and Greymane, it goes contra everything else that we've seen in Greymane compositions here today. Like Greymane was always supported by 2-3 heroes with extra shields, with the bunker available, and he wants to be in the melee form and really get his stacks together. So the double support is going to help him do that. And on top of it, we have now a lot of tools to make sure that Tracer doesn't get the kill. And through Varian, you have the opportunity to go in, get the taunt, make sure that Malfurion lands the root, and you can add the extra stun in and get the taunt. So there's a huge CC chain where Greymane can get the damage in and confirm the kill.
Yeah, and there's actually something to be said. I've seen it in the past. It's not the most common, but as you said, the one-shot blow-up potential. Tracer has an incredibly low health pool. But you can still use, if you get the taunt, lockdown, and then a stun, you can still use Curse Bullet and then instantly hop into Worgen form. Yeah. So that is a possibility that you go and just try, if she's at 100%, that drops real quick and it's really easy to finish. So I think that is a threat. The Varian pickup, I think the only reason Varian works here is because there's an Abathur, which means they are all in on the Tracer style. It requires you to get picks with Tracer. Tyrael and ETC are going to be great. I think we'll likely see Stage Dive. You know, you already kind of have the pseudo global with Abathur, but against the double support, I don't see Mosh Pit coming into play, but this is one of those rare instances where I'm actually in favor of Varian.
I was wondering if we would get the Rhaegar for the 5th pick. We got Stukov instead. The cleanse helpful against Varian, trying to prevent your teammate from being blown up right away. But Stukov seems to be a hero that Zealots are really buying into right now.
Yeah, this is the second time that they picked it, and although I didn't really see the value coming out of that first game on Towers of Doom because of the displacement of Maiev, I feel like if you remove her, maybe now we can start to see Stukov shine and do what he's supposed to do, because they were just completely getting rolled over by the displacement. They weren't able to utilize the silence very well, and I feel like that punished them a little bit.
Well, predictions time, Caldor.
I'm actually at this point really worried for Zealots, because Stukov has to more or less shut down every attempt to go for a Tracer or a combo. I like the global that we have for Tempo Storm. In the earlier draft, even though I, as I said, agreed with Jeho that the draft of Tempo Storm is strong, I felt Zealots got exactly what they wanted. I'm not so sure here. I really think that Tempo counters that out really well, and if they play that correctly, they should be... I actually think that Tempo wins this one.
Voting for Tempo. Caldor.
I'm not rooting for them, I'm saying they're probably going to win.
Andy, what about you?
I am also going to go and back Tempo Storm this time around, and the reason why is because I'm looking at their draft, and so much of that is centered around stopping that Tracer. They're not afraid to show their hand, and it's like, we're going to make sure your Tracer gets nothing done, and that's what I'm worried about.
Tempo lacks a little bit when it comes to wave clear. They have Dahaka, and that's pretty much it. I still think, however, there's enough eggs in the basket to stop Tracer with just the Abathur and the double warrior that I think that Tempo's draft, I'm in favor of the Varian pick when normally I'm never in favor of Varian. I think this is the one time I think it works.
There's not too much wave clear on Zealots either. It's not like they're really in a situation, you know, where they are so oppressively in the wave clear department that you can say, okay, this is the one tool that they're going to use to take Tempo down. So
it's going to come down to the team fights to decide who's going to win the objectives.
Especially around those temples, the first one's going to be an important one. They have one shot here to make this composition really open up and take Sky Temple, and I believe in the one shot. Caldor might be not going with the blood of EU, but I am here. I'm going to go for Zealots because I'm in favor of 3 games. What are you smiling about?
Nothing.
Chat votes, guys. Go ahead and continue to let them roll on. And let's go ahead and look right now. 65 to 35%. Chat believing in North America. Tempo Storm with nearly 70%.
Yeah, you're the only one who goes against it. Brainwash completed.
Let's go ahead and head over to our casters here. Gillyweed and Dreadnought will bring you all the action here for game number 2.
A flip of the hat with Tracer being denied from Tempo Storm by Zealots. They'll be trying to get some early game damage done themselves with the Tracer, with the pulse bombs. What do you think of the Varian, the double warrior, the double support play or composition for Tempo Storm?
It's one of those ones where you can very much see the logic behind it, right? And it comes down to execution.
Yes.
I would say it's a bit risky, but again, it's very, very justified compared to, you know, your average Varian pick.
Yeah, well, we have Tempo Storm in the blue fan playing Malfurion. He's played that a couple of times and always delivers. Glaurung on his Dahaka, Som playing Greymane, Varian played by Caterpillar in June. He'll be playing Uther.
And in the red here, down a game, but looking to take us to game 3 if they have success. It's going to be Tracer, played by Chris, ADRD on the Abathur, Mopsio playing Tyrael, Zarmany on ETC, and Shad on the Stukov once more. And I mean, even though they weren't successful in the last game, Shad was putting on a clinic there on this Stukov. So I am looking for those lurking arms again to be able to make those plays, and more importantly, keep the Varian Tracer conundrum alive, right? As long as you can stop the opportunity to be able to get that taunt and get that hard crowd control into her, she's going to be a lot more, you know, capable to be a problem.
Yeah, I'm curious about the Varian. Like Jayhow, I'm not sold on it versus the Tracer. Good roots, but an even better silence. Mopsio still under fire. Som all in on trying to get that first blood. Won't be able to get it. Mopsio backs off.
Yeah, he's going to be able to survive out of the situation. So on the note of the vote, let's talk about it. What about the Varian in this type of situation? Because I mean, I'm always hesitant when I see a Varian, especially in a double support, double warrior type. Like with this, it does feel a bit too damage light, right? Yes, the Tracer is going to be a problem, but it's like, how big of one? So what else?
Well, just in general, because Tracer is still able, she has a heroic ability right at the beginning of the game. You can get those early game kills, whereas Varian, you are looking for the point and click stun of having taunt to really be able to slow her down. Granted, you have a point and click stun earlier on with an Uther, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna see June go into a Divine Storm, but maybe not, we'll see. There's also a Twilight Dream if she dives in too deep to be able to follow up with that taunt. It's just that it feels like a lot of teams are able to get enough done early on with the Tracer that by the time you get to Varian, who, like the panel said, low on wave clear too, it doesn't really provide that to the team. It's too far gone by that point. We'll see how Tempo Storm can do with it though. They feel confident, even maybe being damage light, like you said.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like it's one of those cases where we see into a draft a team that, you know, obviously has a huge strength with the Abathur and the Tracer working together, being the mosquito that they can be overall. And it's like, well, we have an answer on one side. And it goes, just did they draft too many resources to only deal with one problem? Because, I mean, let's keep in mind that there are all 5 heroes on the side of Zealots. Yes, Chris is going to be the one looking to get the big plays here, but generally speaking, it is a unit here. And I agree. And it feels like generally when we see Varian, it's just overcommitting a little bit too far. This one, still not yet to be convinced here. And, you know, I don't think we're going to know really until we see the next Shrine phase spawn.
Yeah, it's something that Europe drafts quite a lot when they have to deal with Tracer. We've seen Team Dignitas do it in the past with JPL. And like I said, the success, the results, they're not always there. But we'll see here, Zealots, they're getting their bruisers. It's a bruiser versus bruiser trade. But Som, if Tempo Storm can get Som onto these towers, should be able to start doing a lot of damage. And that silence is great from Shad. He's in the right place to try to limit that.
And we also have to keep in mind that because Abathur is in this game and it is Sky Temple, with these first top wall being taken down with this Night Camp from Tempo, if they control majority of these shots on top and this map starts to open up, which it does very, very quickly for Sky Temple, it's a lot less free soak for the Abathur, and that late game stall that we come to know and love out of Abathur is a lot less reliable. Psalm, though, out a bit too far. Tracer is going to get the track down here. Root's going to be there. The Frisbee, but the power slide locks it in. There's first blood, and they're not done. Getting a second with that knockback.
What an amazing flank from Zarmany. He was being chased down the entire time, but even with the double support, Som gets taken out by Zealots at the start of this Temple phase, and that does 2 things for Zealots. It limits the damage that was done. It allows them to be a lot more aggressive early on with that Abathur composition, which is best case scenario, and it gets them on both temples for a little bit of time.
To be honest, like, again, with outside of like viewing major misplays, that picture that was painted up on top was near idealistic for Tempo Storm.
Yes.
And then very, very quickly, because of that kill, it was almost the exact opposite. You have 2 kills in the early game with Shrine advantage, both mid and bottom, or excuse me, mid and top, and you are going to consume a majority of the shots, even if they never touch the Shrines past this point. You are saying this is a huge win for an Abathur comp on Sky.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get a lot done to that top lane, and Tempo Storm is left hoping to lick their wounds and catch up as they are bringing in Glaurung. And this is a situation where, again, versus the Zealots having the Abathur, this time Glaurung has come up, and Zealots are being more patient around this temple. The longer that they could just hang around, force people to hang around here, and especially if they could maybe get a kill on Glaurung here, the better Abathur gets in that soak in bottom lane.
We also have to keep in mind that ADRD, as he rounded the level 7 talent here, he went with the Mule, so that's something keeping them back to the minds of Tempo Storm. Pulse Bomb comes out from Chris, but it's really just gonna, force the disengage here. Not too much to be gained from either side. And concluding the first shots, this is very much a win for Zealots. They didn't secure the top 4, but just with how, that's an experience on reserve, right? For them up in that top lane. And more importantly, it's just the fact that they're winning the early game here with this comp.
Yeah, it's not like Tempo Storm's gonna heal that up and it's so low. Right rotation and manipulation of positioning should be able to net Zealots that fort no problem. It's just a matter of keeping Dahaka there, and Tempo Storm quickly rotates Glaurung up into that top lane so we can start pushing that back. We'll soon see Abathur jump up there. There he goes, ADRD now countering that as both teams work on the action in the bottom lane, maybe trying to get some damage done here in the bottom lane ahead of this next Temple phase.
We do see ETC dealing with the Haka towards top, so it's only going to be really a 3-man response down below. There's 10 talents here nowhere near. The giant battle is going over to Zealots. The pulse bomb goes down. Great heal from June. Last second there, drag lands onto Shad, but nobody there to get the follow-up because of the damage in the pulse bomb by Chris zoned them just far enough away to not get the response there. Just, a half a pixel or second away from being a kill for both sides there.
Yeah, Tempo Storm has been, for the most part, just barely living through these pulse bombs. That changes with Quantum Spike at 10, because a lot of it for Tempo Storm has gone down to having the armor as a way of reducing, and we know the Quantum Spike with the percent-based damage, it cuts through that. It only helps out with the initial pulse bomb damage. Because of that, maybe we see Tempo Storm still favor having the Divine Shield, an all-in approach for Psalm, and hoping that he could stay alive, although Caterpillar, he's the one who's hoping that he can stay alive. That's the second burn pulse bomb after that. Goodbye, Caterpillar. Zealots get a kill.
And it could not be timed better. There now 8-second time advantage for Zealots here between the Varian spawning and then joining on this bottom. It's so much so that I wouldn't be surprised if Tempo completely forfeits the remainder of this bottom shrine. It looks like, body language-wise, that seems to be the intent, and this is really another moment where Zealots find themselves a kill at right before the shrine. A perfect, absolutely flawless timing here. And this is now a moment where they need to keep furthering this lead, and if they end up taking all 3 forts at this point in time, it's really just, where does Tempo come back? Because we were so concerned with this double warrior, double support, and their lack of wave clear. And an Abathur comp without your forts, and Abathur somehow has all of his own, he is going to be very, very problematic, not only in experience, but more importantly, vision.
Another massive shove pick for Shad. We'll talk about that in a second. Zarmany was considering if he wanted stage dive or a mosh pit. Obviously, stage dive gives him even more global presence, and he can dive into the backline too. Thinking about the mosh pit though, there's not a ton of interrupts there for Tempo Storm, so it might have been a possibility there, worth thinking about it, especially because of the control it can give you around the boss area.
It does put him in a position though to, with a stage dive pickup here for Zealots and having that Abathur, it can double down on the macro problem, right? It's already taken the Abathur's pretty good at this, but if we can split the stage dive and we can rely on the Sanctification and our Stukov to, hold their own in this, what is going to be a 3 versus 5, presumably, into those type of skirmishes. Generally speaking though, this entire game has just looked very, very clean here for Zealots. I think this next team fight and how they're able to use their heroics in using that split pressure through ETC and Abathur into the Dahaka is going to be very, very crucial. And if Tempo struggles in the fight, it's kind of going to hit that moment where you go, where is the breaking point for them to come back?
Well, Tempo Storm has the taunt Cursed Bullet combination that, again, Europe has played quite a lot of. Do you think this is setting them up so they don't necessarily have to always focus on Tracer? They can focus on other targets.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point that you bring up, because then if you look at it and you say, well, why would you go with the Cursed Bullet? The Tracer's so weak. Go for the Throat debatably might have a higher damage output, right? But yeah, if you only have Go for the Throat to only kill Tracer, the math problem on how you win this game gets very, very clear for Zealots. It goes, keep Tracer alive, and there's no chance they can get that kill. Now you have that very, very short cooldown with the taunt, and Cursed Bullet is extremely low as well. Suddenly it's, well, we got Tracer last time, she has the back, now ETC, that is going to be the one we focus on too.
Rotation starting to come in as Zealots trying to take out this fort to give them 13. Next Temple phase will be happening very soon. In fact, there is the activation in 30 seconds from now, as it'll be mid and bottom. Bottom, you start thinking about boss, but so far both of these teams really untouched, not even looking at it. Zealots just wanting to play the macro game, and Tempo Storm has just been playing catch up this entire time, trying to keep up with the rotations of Zealots.
control over the middle eye is going to be very important over this middle shrine. Whoever can get that control, mainly not only because the flank positioning and how useful that is, but the dependence Tracer is on making sure she can get a flank onto the proper target and abuse the, open territory. Abathur getting caught out, though, is a huge setback now for Zealots. It's going to try and get punished. Zarmany starts with a stage dive, hits the power slide, going to boop them back, but Tracer not in position to get the follow-up here, and that is a free kill. Great punishment there from Psalm.
Yeah, and well done from the rest of his team to slow down rotations after the stage dive came in. Zarmany went after him, but the taunt was used just to slow down the rest of Zealots, so there was no follow-up past that stage dive, and Psalm doing what he could to avoid most of that. Still was hit from it and the power slide, but did a lot. Now look at this Tempo Storm with a huge play getting onto the temples.
Power slide's going to go down. Pulse bomb, not even going to be used there. Nice divine shield, maybe a bit early and preemptive there from June, but also understandably so considering that could have been the all-in attempt. We do see Dahaka is consuming those shots up on the bottom, and now we're going to have the Abathur back online. The fight over mid is going to be real here. Zealots take some damage onto Chris, but he's going to be able to heal up.
Yeah, the taunt was there, but June had backed off, wasn't able to follow up with the Hammer of Justice. Now Cleanse with a Hand of Protection knocks back. It's going to take a long time to kill Caterpillar. There he is, just fighting it in the fight. Goes back in with the charge. Here comes a great knockback from Zarmany, though.
Forces the recall from Chris, and then they're trying to get the track down. ADRD is going to go ahead and use the Tracer clone, track it down Psalm. Somebody's going to have to get back and get the heals, and that is June now responding to that. Stun goes down, clone removes, but here's the stage dive.
Psalm getting into position. They have an immediate route underneath that, too. They have Twilight Dream if they want it, and they do. They try to use it, but it gets stunned out. Great job from Zealots, making sure to stop that from Fan, and now they're knocking back. They're keeping control of Cattle, and they'll take him down.
Zarmany's in a tough position, but he's able to get the kite there. Mobsio joining in with the Eldruin's follow-up. Twilight Dream does end up going down onto Tracer. No time for the recall. She is going to get squashed.
She gets squashed, making it a 1-for-1 as Tempo Storm continuing to keep the fight going. There's a Tempo about half left, and it's going to be Tempo Storm who gets to claim it.
I did not think there was any chance that Tempo was going to be able to turn that around after another great opener from Zealots. But they have done an amazing job, both in Game 1, now here in Game 2, at finding a way to recollect themselves after the initial initiation, and then trade up on a 4 versus 4. And generally speaking, that is not common into Abathur compositions. Abathur does well because he can get 3, 4, 5 cycles of his hat, and when that happens, I mean, he actually is the best hero in the game, it feels like, right? That is why he gets so highly prioritized, and the Mule keeping alive up on towards top will be able to help with that fort, but I'm impressed here from Tempo Storm. The control that they have in these fights is amazing.
Yeah, they seem to be very patient too. You're not seeing them go up to the top yet. Expect once they get those Giants to get the Bruisers and try to take that out before Mule can heal that back up. The Mule and Abathur, the global of both ETC and Abathur, that's keeping Zealots in this game, that they're still going to get many more opportunities to fight because they have kept their structures alive, despite Tempo having a lot of the shrines, and also being able to stay close to 16. Tempo checking up boss. They don't have 16 that far ahead of Zealots, though. They're just going to go down and get the push going in this bottom lane, just continually making sure to deal with the globals with the Abathur.
And it should be, kept in the back of our minds here that even though we are pretty deep into this game, that was the closest thing to a legitimate 5 versus 5 that has existed throughout this game. Both Shrine Phase 1, 2, and 3, a major pick happened onto a hero before it even unfolded. And even then, we saw it wasn't everybody regrouping with every single heroic. It was kind of, okay, half of us don't have it. Let's look for the initiation. And I can't help but wonder, does that look a little bit different here for Zealots if they are able to get that initiation as a full group and a bit more, calculated here?
Tempo Storm keeping eyes on the boss. Continuing that. Zealot's doing it the exact same thing, though, with the toxicness that Abathur can provide. That's going to clear out these Bruisers, and we're seeing a lot of focus on the eye for Tempo Storm. They're making sure not to go too far away from the boss. Now, though, they'll have to make some hard decisions. But both teams have a global potentially to try to keep up there while still making sure to keep watch over the boss.
Tracer is going to go ahead and show up on mid. This is very important because of how much information is conveyed about the boss here to Tempo Storm. So right now, they only know Tracer mid. Mopsio yet to display, except a ping ended up going down there. So I think he went out right before the minion ended up dying. So they do know that Tyrael is going to be on the bottom half along with Zarmany here. So no threat over the boss quite yet. And with that, Dahaka is going to start the shrine.
Starts the shrine, but can burrow in. Should he be necessary for that, Cattle moves forward. Boss is started by Zealots.
Psalm sees it here. He's going to go ahead and move up. Flash just a poke off. Dahaka confirms the top 4. Tempo Storm is comfortable delaying this as long as possible. That just means 3 shots up on the top. Now we see Dahaka feigning like he's actually getting a brush stock here, questioning if they want to initiate. But Zealots is yet to back up here. They're confident. They want to take this.
Now Dahaka, though, he's stalking in, and Tempo Storm are willing to provide. They get the stun. They have the Cursed Bullet, but Zarmony stays alive through it. Pulse Bomb. Divine Shield allows Psalm to keep going, keep kicking. Zarmony nearly falls down. Gets a last-second healing pathogen. It's going to be Greymane that goes down, but the boss.
Chris is on the boss by himself. There goes the stage dive. Mopsy was very, very low. June dropping so very quick, but Chris manages to survive. The Moonburn ends up sealing the deal. 2 members dead for both sides. Boss picked up here for Tempo Storm. What just happened?
That was the maybe most insane Twilight Dream I've ever seen in my entire life. Fan playing Malfurion is what happened. Stage dive in. Everyone went silent. Boss claimed by Tempo Storm. And they'll keep right going with the macro. They said Dahaka back up to the top for that temple. Now, of course, Zealots, they still have Mule. They're still going to have opportunities. But Tempo Storm, every victory they get is more and more momentum toward closing out this series.
The Giants are going to back up here. And with this kind of lull, where do we see Zealots collect themselves? Because this is now, we're looking at these keeps dropping. We're looking at that 20 spike. What opportunities are they going to have? And realistically, they're going to have to force off of a shrine, off of the boss, because it's not going to be an option. Generally speaking, Night Camp is the easiest place to get that type of invade, but with the map pressure so hard against them, it's not realistic because of to make that kind of rotation. So maybe over the Giants, all I'm trying to say here is that every rotation that we see from Zealots is probably going to be very easily kind of conveyed over to Tempo Storm, and acts of desperation are absolutely needed here because Tempo is rounding that 20.
Right, anywhere that Tempo Storm shows, Zealots should be looking for a place to try to get that fight. And it's surprising to see Tempo Storm out this far, but they're sticking together because with all the lanes pushed, they need to try to collect that experience somewhere so that they can get to 20 before the next shrine phase. There is one camp up. It's the Bruisers on the Zealot side. Obviously, I think it's unlikely that Tempo Storm want to invade there. It just gives them time to dual soak in the lanes, keep this giant camp going in the bottom, and try to soak up to that 20.
Tempo isn't in a position to where they are going to they could have maybe forced up in the bottom with a 20 spike. They're going to back out towards their Knights, which is, again, the easiest fight now because I has been controlled by Zealots, and the only one they realistically can take. I want to see Zealots all in this. I do feel like it realistically would be the opportunity to be able to deny that, but also we have to keep in mind that Apter has done a pretty good job because the 5-man death ball of keeping the experience caught up here. I heavily underestimated how much of a swing we would see out from Zealots. We find themselves now balancing it out.
Yeah, Tempo pushed all those waves up, and Zealots responded quickly to make sure that they could soak those, knowing that they're not that far behind. They haven't lost any keeps yet, and I'm surprised too at how fast they caught up. They're still not quite there, but they're basically there.
Yeah, I was looking at the menu waves, and I was like, the map is so pushed against them, and I thought it was only one wave, but apparently I didn't count those little speckles on the map because they had a lot more experience kind of just reserved right outside their keeps. So it's not as dire as I assumed. I figured this would be, about 19 1/4, and it's like you're never going to have the chance. But it is very realistic that we do see Zealots be able to stall that out once more, get this 20, and see the all-in. But this very much could be the game-ending shrine phase here, no matter what team ends up winning this fight.
Zealots showing in the bottom. It's unsafe for Dahaka to move on out toward that bottom temple. Because the structures are fairly even, you can see that Zealots are willing to trade out for now on the temple phase. They have the Mule, they have the Abathur, but this top push is great for Tempo Storm. They have the temple and they have the Bruisers here so they can push along with it. Tempo Storm is very insistent on making sure that they get this keep.
They will end up being able to get the keep, but they have to keep in mind that there is no area for the Dahaka to be able to brush talk past this keep. So any kind of ideas of, would we look for an initiation is, pretty much out of the realm of possibilities. So Tempo, they're going to play it safer here, pull away, not risk any kind of questionable initiation, and move elsewhere onto the map bottom. We do see Tyrael is able to get a lot of those shots, but generally speaking, with the keep advantage now for Tempo, it's really just, their waiting game available. That macro concern we had for so very long, it's stalled out now because they are winning in the keep war.
Dread, I just want to highlight at this point right now, with where Tempo Storm are at, this is a Tempo Storm throughout all of 2016 or 2017, really. A team that didn't choke per se, but had a lot of trouble translating how strong they were in North America to an international event. And yet Tempo Storm this entire series long has felt nothing but cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, it's a really good point that you bring up. It does feel like night and day. Sanctification goes down, but it's a bit early. They're not a cooldown that they necessarily want to use that early on. Glaurung comes in, throws down the silence, hits the Tracer with that snipe there. Then he's going to follow up with the hook, but no kill yet. Mopsio follows up, but Zarmany has got to be scooting away. Shad throws down the lurking arm, and it's enough to keep them alive.
Shad played that fight so freaking well. The massive shove as Dahaka came in, the silences too, the roots with virulent reaction. But through that all, Tempo Storm snuck behind and got the final shots out of that temple. They've already gotten one keep down. They have the catapult pressure going. And although Abathur will do what he can to deal with that, things are looking more and more dire for Zealots, and there is now a boss yet again available.
I can't help but appreciate that Zealots was willing to kind of, not immediately finish off that shrine phase. It's going to stall out the next one that much more, to where it could put them in an awkward position considering the catapult pressure is so struggling for them up in the top lane. They didn't seem to make too big of a power play by catering towards that afterwards here, but it is a cheeky little play. Stage dive, looking to come in. Zarmany eats a cursed bullet. Twilight Dream goes down. He's on the front line very low, and he's gonna go down. Massive shove is used, but it's too little too late. The recall in, gonna land into the root, but Chris makes it out fine.
Tempo Storm channeling their inner Gandalf, saying you shall not pass to the rest of the team, while they just systematically destroyed Zarmany's ETC with stuns, with roots, with the Twilight Dream too, everything used. Tempo Storm were more than happy to use what they had at their disposal to get that kill, because they knew that behind this, there's a boss that might just be the end of the game for them.
They're not going to let this up. They're going to commit to it here. Even being man down, Glaurung is going to get silenced, not able to hit the drag. Nice zoning there. Body block coming out from Mopsio. Sanctification needs to be used. It's going to be dropped there. Not a cooldown they want, as there is no kill to be gained. Isolation does end up missing, but the drag, the taunt, and that is all she wrote for Tracer. She is out of here. Mopsio not quick to follow with the Outdruin's follow-up here, but this is a boss in 40 seconds with no Tracer pushing into the base. I think Tempo's got it.
Yeah, Tempo Storm has the catapults in top, starting to whittle down the shielding on the core as Zealots go back, trying to deal with that. Every single drag that Glaurung sees, he starts yelling so loudly, letting his team know that he's got the play necessary for them to start getting kill after kill. The shielding almost down. There's still a keep standing in the way of Tempo Storm and having this boss on the core with the taunt.
The taunt goes down. Nice root there for Fan. Excuse me, almost said June there, but Fan clutching it on the Malfurion. They go in. Zarmany, he meets a boss stun, immediately nopes out. That is a bit too scary, but the keep is going to go down. How much more is that boss is still very healthy, Gilly?
15 seconds. There's an isolation, or a Twilight Dream actually with the silent. Mopsio staying alive thanks to the shielding, but it's just not enough. Tyrael falls. He's gonna do a lot of damage to Psalm. Actually, Divine Shield just to keep Psalm healthy. They want Psalm to get on the score. Stage dive in the back. Immediate isolation as they turn. Get another kill. Tempo Storm taking out Zealots one by one, and the boss is on the core.
80% and counting. Even if they get all the kills here, it's not going to matter. Tempo Storm will end up beating Zealots here 2-0. It's gonna stay sent home, but a little preemptive here, all right? It's still, not in the knockout stage yet.
Yeah, slow down that NA bias, Dreadnought.
I mean, we won one series. I was like, we're feeling good. We win a second one, and apparently I think I'm sending the rest of Europe out. Like, it's just Western Clash is over. We've got it.
Look at these faces. Tempo Storm, the second NA team here today at the